From weapons grade genius to weapons grade stupidity. Yes, I decided to cut my hair in the middle of the evening, in the middle of fucking winter. That's not what you called. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well again. And this is now my second take of this video, because I was trying to do a little transition from here into the bathroom with me about to shave my hair, and you see, here's my hair, now it's gone. And then instead, I ended up smashing my phone on my scales of all fucking things. So now I've got several hundred cracks in my phone, but I digress. This is going to be more seriously about what happened in, is it Maidberg Square? I'm sure somebody will correct me, but it was in the German market, basically, where an Islamic terrorist decided to basically plough a vehicle through some civilians as if the motherfucker was playing Grand Theft Auto 2 and going for one of those killing frenzies. Now, I wish I could laugh about this, but it's no fucking laughing matter. The fact that there are over 90 people wounded with at least 5 or 6 dead. And that was when I last read it, quite frankly. A man who they tried to portray as Islamophobic, and that he followed Tommy Robinson to try and shift the blame from, the usual suspects. Because we all know that the main people that like to go around and commit terror attacks these days, predominantly by instilling fear and terror into people, is Islam. I mean, let's face it, how else do you see 90% of our terror watch list suspects be Muslim? How is it that every single time that we see a significant terrorist attack, it usually ends up being someone either from a foreign country or someone who is basically one of the parasites known as Islam, or the Islamic jihadists, or whatever you want to call them, Mohammedans. But basically, this man, apparently, they were saying at first that he was from Saudi Arabia, and I'm not sure if that's true, so I'm not going to confirm that. But we do know that he is Islamic by nature. And the fact that this man decided to go and basically try to kill hundreds of people means that, personally, if it were down to me, instead of being there, standing up there in the dock, having to face a judge, I personally think it should be off with his head, quite frankly. But maybe I'm a bluff old traditionalist of not wanting assholes like this living on our world. Not wanting these third world shithole barbarians going out of their way to murder our people. People who have spent their time living on this world, and now they've had their lives cut short because some scumbag, because that's what he is, decides he wants to go out of his way to try and get his 72 virgins, or whatever it is. Well, I can assure you this much, he sure as shit ain't getting any virgins. The only place he's going is straight to hell, hopefully. I'd like to think. Mind you, I don't think that's a question even the most zealous of Christians or any other religious people can actually completely answer. Because we do not know if there is a heaven and hell. We do not know if people who commit wrongs are quite rightly punished for their actions, or whether those who serve the greater good get to go up and see the man himself. But what I can say is that I'm sure a lot of us will have our hearts, thoughts and prayers with the families of those people who are part of this life-changing experience, which I wish had never happened. An experience that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies. It doesn't matter if they're Germans, whether they're French, whether they're Russians or anything. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. I wouldn't wish people to lose their lives because some religious zealot decides he wants to do his duty in the name of Alan's Snack Bar, or whoever the fuck they're on about. Unfortunately, this is what happens when we allow a socially and what's the other word I'm looking for? I don't want to say democratically, because that should make sense anyway, but they're socially incompatible. They are about as compatible with us as water is to electricity. They are about as tolerant of us as road-killed skunk is of outside invaders. Frankly, we don't want these third-world shithole barbarians causing more damage like this. Why else do you think the British people, and in fact the West in general, is growing more and more impatient with their establishments? It's because we can see the problem that's staring at us right in the face. Yet we have politicians and treacherous prime ministers who fail to see that. I think the term, the lights are on, but no one's home, in a nutshell, they are just completely clueless. They are completely and utterly out of their depth. Keir the traitor Starmer has already declared his allegiance to Islam through effectively saying that he will protect the Muslim community. We have Nigel Farage, who seems to think that Islam isn't the problem and wants to say that mass deportations won't work. But we have people out there who have shown us, Geert Wilders in particular, who have basically said, we don't want Islam in our country. We don't want barbarians trying to come in here and conquer our country. And good on Geert Wilders, because the Netherlands, or wherever he's from, does not belong to Islam. Just like Egypt does not belong to Islam. Just like Saudi Arabia. Just like Iraq. Just like Syria does not belong to Islam. They're supposed to be countries where people are able to live. There are places where people are supposed to be able to enjoy themselves. Yet Islam just continues to want to subjugate and conquer rather than actually integrate with anything. Hell, they have trouble trying to live by them fucking selves. What do you think they're going to do to us, who they see as their profound enemies? The sad thing is, there's probably some people out there who are practicing Muslims who actually just want to live a life of peace, who actually do want to live a peaceful life. Unfortunately, it's all tarred because of the zealots in the Sunni Islamic teachings, the Mohammedans, if you will, that do not care for the peaceful ones and that basically want to destroy the world through their third world shithole ideologies. And unfortunately, that means time and time again, we end up seeing attacks here, we end up seeing attacks across the pond, we see attacks over in the US. And where does it end? Frankly, this is why people are pissed off for the most part, because we can clearly see what the problem is. If you have a patient that has a tumour inside of them, a cancer, if you will, the good doctor would excise the tumour and cast it out. But a bad doctor will try to cover it up. A bad doctor will try to downplay it. A bad doctor will not remove the cancer and instead try to justify the cancer being in there. That is the way to look at Islam. It is a cancer and nothing more. Now, one last thing that I want to talk about, other than the fact that obviously I wish the best of luck and my wishes and thoughts and prayers go out to all the Germans who've been affected by this, is there was something I saw when I was watching Andre Walker, which was him talking about what I spoke about earlier, which was the fact that Radha Kubana, Ricky Jones, Ricky Cutthroat Jones and Mike Assaulting Amesbury were all due to have their trials on the same date, which is Trump's inauguration day. And he called it a take out the trash day. And I must admit, when I heard this, I was like, no, you cannot take my saying that is illegal. Because what do you think I do all the time? I say it's time to take out the trash. This isn't what I mean by taking out the trash. I mean taking out the trash as in get rid of Keir the Traitor Starmer. Remove Mike Assaulting Amesbury. Remove Ricky Cutthroat Jones. Get rid of the third world shithole barbarians. Stop people like David the Archbishop of Racism Lammy from sending our money to terrorists. Not, let's bury Donald Trump's inauguration day with something that we want to focus on because at least then it detracts from the narrative of Trump. It infuriates me. And the audacity of the media to try these tactics is appalling. But then we all know they're not journalists, they're propagandists. Oh, and speaking of media and propagandists, here's the kicker. Here's something that I did not think was going to be a thing, but I should have known better, quite frankly, in all my infinite wisdom, or lack thereof. Apparently, Merseyside police have decided that if anybody wants to go and see Tommy Robinson in prison, and they're a social media journalist, guess what? You now have to sign a gagging order in order to be able to see him. What this basically means is anything that you speak about with Tommy Robinson, you're not allowed to talk about on the internet. Full stop. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But you know what's even more disgusting? The fact that they threatened that if we do go out of our way to post anything on the internet, Tommy Robinson will be punished for it. There are some things I would love to do right now, but I can't because it's against the law. But this is unequivocally the most draconic thing the police have ever done. Because what they're doing now is they're trying to suppress free speech, which last time I checked, that's against the law. Under Article 10 of the Human Rights Act. That people have the right to be able to speak about whatever they wish, as long as it does not, 1, incite violence, or 2, incite terrorism. So I would highly recommend that some human rights lawyers look into this. Because I am pretty sure that shit is illegal. I am pretty fucking sure that the police are not allowed to do that. They are not allowed to stop people from speaking about what prisoners have said. Because that is a breach of their human rights. And it is a breach of our human rights as well, to be able to speak about things. Now, if it was, for example, Tommy Robinson was part of Al-Qaeda, let's say, and he had some information and we were trying to go in and get that, then yeah, I could understand doing that shit. I really could. But the trouble is, Tommy Robinson is not a convicted terrorist. He is not a hardcore criminal, although some people will argue the assault on the off-duty copper is something else. But I've already explained that many times. That was basically, he was only in the wrong the moment he stamped on the copper's head. Otherwise, he was defending his wife, which he was quite lawful in what he was doing. But of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. No, they would rather focus on the fact that, oh, Tommy Robinson bad, Tommy Robinson evil, Tommy Robinson far right, evil, Tommy Robinson racist, blah, blah, blah. Yet when they're asked to call for evidence, when they are asked by us to provide evidence, their claims go up in smoke, just like that, because they have no evidence. And all this is doing, putting this gagging order on, the only thing that's doing is proving is that there is a two-tier society that we are living in right now. We are living under two-tier policing, two-tier judiciary, two-tier governance, and most importantly, it is an attempt to suppress Tommy Robinson's free speech, and I'd even go as far as saying now that Tommy Robinson is the government's hostage. Sorry, I had to sit down. My sides are playing up, and it's not because of the crappy joke I told one of my friends. Anyway, the fact is, Tommy Robinson is effectively now the government's hostage. They are using freedom of speech to threaten, if you do not do as we say, Tommy Robinson gets it. That's basically what it is. Now, disclaimer, airsoft gun coming up. And just a quick one as far as airsoft guns are concerned. Two-tone guns do not require a license. So if anybody wants to try and screw me in this shit, then I'm sorry, they're shit out of luck. But it's basically a matter of Tommy Robinson is being held hostage by our government. And I'm having trouble putting this BB in. But obviously, whenever you've seen a magazine with a CO2 capsule, basically what this comes down to is, if you say anything about the Southport trial, you say anything about reductive butter, and the syrup gets it. Sorry, Tommy Robinson gets it. But that's basically what it is. It's basically, if we speak out about anything that Tommy Robinson has said, if we try to relay anything that Tommy Robinson has said, then effectively, we're going to get it. Or sorry, he's going to get it. That is effectively holding Tommy Robinson hostage. And that is surely illegal. That is surely illegal. And as such, Keir the Traitor Starmer needs to overturn this. He needs to understand that what is happening with Tommy Robinson is fundamentally wrong and illegal. And what this effectively boils down to is it is effectively suppression of freedom of speech. Little story about my airsofting for about a half minute. I used to go airsofting about, I'd probably say 10 years ago or something, when my granddad was still around, God rest his soul. I used to have a whole lot of fun doing airsofting, and I didn't really experience the luxury of these gas blowback types until like a month ago or two, when I still had a little bit of money. And I thought maybe it's time to get back into it. But I'll worry about that as and when. But I think maybe the airsofting would be a good thing for me, because it would allow me to distract myself from video games and, of course, gambling as a whole. I am already doing everything I can to try and undo some of the wrongs that I've done in my life, quite frankly. So that's why I've got that. But what this effectively is the government is committing all sorts of illegalities now. Funding terrorism, holding Tommy Robinson hostage, persecuting people for their political beliefs, endangering national security, just to name a few, and basically putting anybody who speaks negatively about the so-called religion of peace, they're putting them through the ringer. Well, it won't be long here, the traitor Starmer, before that bites you in the arse big time. And when it does, don't come running to us, telling us I should have listened to you guys. What we did was wrong. Because we're going to be like, we fucking told you so. Tommy Robinson is a symbol. He is symbolic. He is what most people would consider the leader of the group. But I reckon we have quite a few other leaders in the group. Some people are even saying I could perhaps lead it. And I'm not so sure about that shit, because I don't feel like I've got the leadership skills for it. But I could be wrong. I'm open-minded. I just don't think my position is as a leader of the group. And maybe that's my biggest flaw. Maybe it's a slight bit of imposter syndrome, where I just think that I'm not able to do what I'm actually fully capable of doing, quite frankly. But surely there are going to be some lawyers who have got the balls, whether up here or down there, or indubitably in my case both. I've certainly got a banging set of tits, let me tell you. But there's got to be some people who've got the balls to take on Keir the traitor Starmer. There needs to be at this point, because I believe that man needs to say, there's your stroke for the video, face serious repercussions for his actions against the country. If it were down to me, I would have brought back the traitor law, and I would have had that man hanging from the gallows 6 months ago, quite frankly. The man is about as desirable in this country as a nonce in a nursery. The man has as much credibility as a road-killed skunk trying to commit fraud. The man hasn't got anything going for him. And frankly, just thinking about the man is enough to make anybody's piss boil, quite frankly. It won't be long, though, before Keir the traitor Starmer ends up fucking with the wrong people. It won't be long before some people decide they've truly had enough. And I'm not going to condone a violent revolution, or advocate for it, or justify it, but anything that does happen to Keir the traitor Starmer, he's only got himself to blame. He can't blame the Conservatives for this one. He can't blame the far right for this one. Because at the end of the day, it'll be a mess of his making. And he'll be the one who has to pay the price for it. He will be the one who ends up having to pay the piper. And it's a debt that he will have to pay that he can't pay. He hasn't got the funds to do it. He hasn't got the principles to do it. He made a deal with the devil when he got into power. And the one thing I can say for sure is that the devil will always get his due.